व्याख्यान शुरू करने से पहले मैं हमारे आज के वक्ता श्री नीरज कुमार सर को आप सब से रूबरू कराना चाहूंगी। नीरज कुमार सर संयुक्त सचिव भू राजनीति और भारतीय संस्कृति के प्रसिद्ध विद्वान हैं। आपका पहला कार्य एशियाई एकीकरण पर अराइज एशिया अक्टूबर 2002 में प्रकाशित हुआ था। इसका अगला भाग एशिया पोस्ट वेस्टर्न एज 2014 में प्रकाशित हुआ। हिमालयन अध्ययन पर आपका संपादित कार्य हिमालयन ब्रिज व्यापक रूप से प्रशंसित हुआ। आप वज्रयान बौद्ध धर्म के एक गहन गूढ़ परंपरा कालचक्र तंत्र के एक प्रतिष्ठित विद्वान हैं, अनुवादक और टीकाकार भी हैं। आपका वर्तमान कार्य कालचक्र तंत्र पर 5 खंडों वाला पंच ग्रंथ है जो 2700 पृष्ठों का है, जिसमें एक नवीन टीका भी शामिल है। वर्तमान में आप भारत सरकार के उत्तर पूर्व क्षेत्र विकास मंत्रालय में संयुक्त सचिव के पद पर कार्यरत हैं। कालचक्र तंत्र 11वीं शताब्दी के प्रारंभ में भारत में लिखा गया अंतिम प्रमुख बौद्ध तांत्रिक ग्रंथ था। नीरज सर इस ग्रंथ को प्रसिद्ध नालंदा परंपरा की संक्षिप्त रूप में प्रस्तुत करेंगे।
Many scholars have described Nalanda with different interpretations, like na alam dadati iti Nalanda, that is where there is no end to offering wisdom, that is Nalanda. But I find it more appropriate to call it Nalanda as Nal plus Anand. Nal is hollow lotus stalk and Anand is joy. The art of deriving joy from emptiness, that is Nalanda. This combination of joy being independent of any object has also been termed as Mahamudra or the Great Seal in Vajrayana. Whatsoever provides joy is also known as mudita in Sanskrit. From that, they term modak is laddu, that provides us happiness. So whatsoever provides joy, that is mudita, is known as mudga. Like this air conditioner, lights, mobile, television, all these are examples of being mudga, and these provide comfort and bring happiness to us. Mudga is the source of mudita. Then one can do cognitive wandering and derive happiness out of blissful thinking. Here also happiness is dependent on our thinking process. In tantric terminology, this is known as dharma mudra. The whole visualization exercise in tantra to generate rasa is akin to this dharma mudra. But there is another supreme category of arising joy, which is not dependent on any object, either external or internal. This is the Mahamudra, the great seal. Nalanda signifies this tradition of harnessing joy out of sunyat, and the Kālacakra Tantra developed full-fledged philosophy as well as yoga practice to attain this state of Mahamudra. The Kālacakra Tantra encapsulates 1500-year-long journey of Buddhist thought, and it is I have termed it as the Kunji of Nalanda tradition of knowledge. Whenever there is mention of Nalanda, people generally think that there were 1,000 teachers, 10,000 students, high-rise library, and but then why did scholars like Swanjan, Ijing, Dharma Swami, Sami Lochava, they flocked to Nalanda from as far as China, Korea, Tibet, Central Asia, Czechia, Sri Lanka, Java. It was not for the number of students or the buildings. It was meant for some special things which Nalanda was offering. That was the Nalanda tradition of knowledge. What is that Nalanda tradition of knowledge? It was based on a secular ontology propounded by one of the earliest founder of Nalanda, a great logician Dignag. Dignag argued that there can be only two proofs for knowing truth, either pratyaks, that is direct perception, or anuman, that is inference. Nalanda tradition of knowledge henceforth rejected authority of scriptures or even words of masters including Buddha himself. The basis of knowledge was to be empirical observation and intuitive knowledge. This was summed up beautifully in the Kālacakra Tantra text, in 160th slok of the last chapter, Gyan Patal, as Vijnanam Jnanam Eki Bhauti Cha Maruta Chanda Surya Niruddhi. That means empirical knowledge, Vijnan, and transcendental knowledge, Jnana, they become one when the lunar and solar winds are blocked. For knowing truth, Nalanda relied on empirical observation of phenomena as much as intuitive knowledge arising from the state of Sunya. Nalanda was the mukut of Sanatan Parampara, and Kālacakra Tantra is the Vajra money in that crown. Now, what exactly that Kālacakra tradition? History of Buddhism has been divided into three stages. We all are aware about that: Theravada, Mahayana, and Vajrayana. The soteriological practice for moksha, enlightenment. In Theravada, concerns with seeing, that is ethical practice, with that eightfold noble path, through drinking charitra suddhi, that is purification of character, one can become an arhat in thousands of lifetimes. Mahayana concerns with samadhi, by which kam suddhi done with the grace of bodhisattva, one can attain nirvana in few lifetimes. Then Vajrayana further compressed that time for liberation, and it emphasized use of body, day itself, by modulating your breath, mandala, mantra, mudra, etc., along with grace of bodhisattva, to attain nirvana in one lifetime. It concerns with prajna, wherein drishti suddhi, that is purification of sight, had to be obtained. Thus, sila, samadhi, prajna of Buddhist philosophy also have its distinct emphasis in three phases of Buddhism. Also, these three phases have distinct linguistic traditions. Theravada flourished in Pali language, Mahayana in Sanskrit, and Vajrayana with Abhyans, from which the Charya poetry and regional languages sprang forth. Corresponding to these three phases of Buddhism, we had this Trikaya doctrine in Buddhism: Dharma Kaya, Dharma body, Sambhog Kaya, enjoyment body, and Nirman Kaya, emanation body. Kālacakra transcends these three stages in Buddhist history. It was in fact the fourth and the last stage in evolution of Buddhist philosophy in India. It is akin to Turiya state, going beyond fourth state of consciousness in Indian philosophy, which transcends the state of waking, sleep, and dream. Kālacakra Tantra moves from drishti suddhi of Vajrayana to sunyat dim, sunyat is emptiness, so generation of empty forms, to the state of Mahamudra Siddhi, that is indestructible state of self-arising joy. Swambhu Akshar Sukh. Its language is mathematics. So basically Kālacakra dabbles with all the numbers and mathematical operations. And it propounded a new fourth body of Sahaj Kaya, the innate body, which is joyous in its very nature. This inverted Buddhist philosophy by 180 degrees. From world being full of sorrow, what Lord Buddha had propounded, now the world is seen as innately joyous, pervaded by Sahaj and Akshar Sukh. Akshar is also indestructible. In fact, many have argued this as new vehicle of Buddhism, Kālachakrayana, which promised enlightenment in a single moment, Ek Chan Mahasambodhi. That is, in a single winking of eye. We have 20 Chan in single wink. So in one wink of eye, you have 20 opportunities for enlightenment. This was nothing new. Enlightenment in a singular moment was already known. We know that the predecessors of Mahayana, Mahasangika, developed the doctrine of Buddha having Ek Chanik Chitta. That is, in a single moment, Buddha could understand all the dharma. This Tantra moved the goalpost from mere intuitive knowledge, that is Jnana, to the unity of empirical knowledge, Vijnana, and transcendental knowledge, Jnana, and thereby creating a capsule of attaining Mahasukh, Vajradev, indestructible body, and Buddha Kshetra. In this world of instant messaging, instant goods, instant noodles, and instant delivery of products, Kālacakra provides a well-structured system of instant enlightenment. So 6-fold yoga comprising of Pratyahar, Dhyan, Pranayam, Dharana, Anusmriti, and Samadhi. Now, let me share the traditional account of the origin of the Tantra. which is being promoted these days by the Tibetan masters. The Kālacakra Tantra was composed in the first half of the 11th century, as it was introduced before me, but this was composed in the premises of Nalanda. So there have been lot of theories by Hoffman, someone else, that it was composed in Central Asia, someone talking about even Arctic, but this was actually composed in the premises of Nalanda, that I have argued in the long introduction of my first volume. And the traditional account mentions that this Tantra was revealed by Sakyamuni Buddha himself during third turning of wheel at Kālacakra to the first Kalki king from Sampala, that was Suchand. The original text ran into 12,000 verses. This is traditional account in Anustup meter, upon which King Suchand composed a 60,000 verse commentary. However, on a scrutiny of text itself, it is clear that the text is a historical piece of writing, wherein city like Baghdad has been mentioned twice. Baghdad itself was founded on 30th July 762 by Khalifa al-Mansur. Thus, the text could not have been written before 8th century. Further, the great translator Rinchen Jhanpo, who visited Ladakh and Lahore Spiti region from late 10th, and he visited the area in 10th century. He was a primary figure in the translation, transmission and teaching of the Yoga Tantras in Tibet. In fact, the second transmission which Dipankar Atis took, that was preceded by Rinchen Jhanpo coming from there to India. So, Rinchen Jhanpo was not aware about this king of Tantra. Another great translator, Danpal, who arrived in Song dynasty capital Kaifeng in Henan, along with his brother in 980 AD, and for whom Song emperor built an institute for translation of sutras. He worked on translating Tantra texts from Sanskrit into Chinese, and he worked on 111 texts. And he died in 1017 AD, but there is no mention of Kālacakra Tantra, even though this Tantra is known as the king of Tantra. Then verse one of the greatest polymath, Al-Baruni, he finished his book on India, Kitabul Hind, in 1031 AD. He came to India in 1017 AD. He was also a great astronomer. He compared 10 different calendars prevalent in India at that time when he was based here. Some of the calendars were based on very recent work of astronomy like current Kautuhu, which was composed in 966 AD. But Al-Baruni was not aware about Kālacakra calendar, which many present Egyptologists claim to have been introduced in Tibet in 1027 AD. The fact of the matter is that this text itself was not composed by that time. In the second chapter of the text, the religion of Al-Rahman has been fully discussed. In fact, this is the first Indian text to have engaged with Islamic philosophy in detail. This text itself mentioned about its date of composition. It is contained in the text. I will just show in the next slide. And that belies so many claims being promoted in the name of the great text from Shambhala. The date of composition of this text is 403 years. It is written there in the second verse. You can see Vahno Kha Abdho. It's a full good Sankhya system. Vahni is fire. It is time for number 3. And Kha is state, number 0. Abdho is ocean, it is number 4. So you write 304. Then you have to read it in reverse. That is Food Sankhya numeral notation. That becomes 403 years. So this text was composed 403 years after the Malecha calendar, that is Islamic calendar, came into being. And that year was also the first year of the Jupiter's 60-year-long Samvatsar cycle, the Prabhav year. So Islamic calendar began in 622 AD. You add 403, that comes to 1025 AD. However, due to difference between northern and southern calendar system within India, scholars like Yukio, Hasi, they have put 1027 AD as the Prabhav year of the Jupiter cycle. So the composition of the text began in 1027 AD and it was completed by 1036 AD during the last year of Mahipal's reign, Mahipala king. This I have already established in long introduction to the first volume of my Pentalogy on Kālacakra Tantra. Now, the manuscripts. The earliest manuscript from Kālacakra corpus, which is right now available, it is that of not the Kālacakra Tantra, but its commentary, the first commentary, Vimal Prabha. That too was composed before 1040 AD by one of the disciples of the composer of the Tantra. So this Vimal Prabha by Kalki Pundarik, it has been dated 1119 AD by R.C. Majumdarji, but I have dated it to 1094 AD because the details of the Samvardhana cycle is given there. This text is in the collection of the Asiatic Society Calcutta, and it forms one of the 14 texts from India which are part of UNESCO Memory of World Register. Now the Sanskrit text on which I work, so this text was published in 1985 by Asiatic Society, and it was collected by Bismarck Banerjee, who later became president of Asiatic Society. This publication is based on a palm leaf manuscript kept in Cambridge University. The colophon mentions the scriber's name as Sri Jairam Datta of Cheraki village in Magda, and the date which I have calculated, it comes to be 1st September 1445 AD. So this text is not the oldest. Earlier we thought this is the oldest. The oldest copy of the manuscript of Kālacakra Tantra has recently been found, and it is dated 1264 AD. It is palm leaf manuscript and has been found from northeast India. I am not able to get hold of the colophon. This has been digitized by the British Library, London. Now let us come to who composed this text. It was not like Sakyamuni Buddha, because the text talks about Islam, the calendar system, and Baghdad and these places. So the composer, I have established that he was none other than Naropa. We know for certain that composition of text started in the year 1027 AD, and during that time Naropa was the greatest Buddhist scholar. We know from record of Tibetan travelers like Nakso Lochawa, who came to invite Dipankar Atis to Tibet, and Nakso writes about Naropa in detail, about the great scholar Naropa, and how Naropa used to chew bitter leaf. So he was quite active, because Nakso Lochawa came to India in 1037 AD, and he talking about Naropa. That means Naropa was alive at that time, and Naropa was guide of Dipankar Sigyan Atis also. And Dipankar Sigyan Atis, he carried Kālacakra tradition to Tibet around 1040 AD. When we explore further, almost all the 17 different traditions of Kālacakra Tantra prevailing in Tibet, as mentioned in the 13th century text by Thuje Fondu, a master from Yunnan tradition, they, in one way or another, all the 17 traditions emanate from Naropa. We further know that the Kālacakra tradition was practiced first by Kajupa sect, to which Karmapa and Gupta belong, and particularly Gupta, whose patron saint was none other than Naropa. Now, how it was introduced in Tibet, and that I will just put it in a brief. So, Tibetan Sakya master Bhutan Rinpoche, who compiled and edited the first set of Kanjur and Tenjur, so he wrote history of Kālacakra Tantra, mentioning that it was translated by one Gijo, who also worked with an Indian Pandit Gayadhar. In my introduction, I have already concluded that it was introduced in Tibet only after 1064 AD, when there was a great council of translators that was invited by the king at Tolin. But I would argue for Dipankar Atis as having introduced Kālacakra Tantra into as fragments into Tibet. Atis mentions about Kālacakra in the text Sarva Samaya Sangra Nam, and this text was composed and translated by him with the support of Nakso Lochawa. If Atis is Kālacakra Tantra in Tibet, he was the recipient. Most probably it was the Bodong master. We have not heard about the Bodongpa sect. We generally know about this Kajupa, Satyapa, Gelugpa, Ningmapa, but Bodongs were very, still the Bodongs are the finest scholars in Tibetan Buddhism. So it was one Bodong master, Muddapa Chenpo. So Chenpo means great, ocean like. So in Sanskrit he was known as Mahamudda. and now we know that Mahamudra is linked with the tradition of Kālacakra Tantra. So Mahamudra is the seal of Kālacakra tradition. Though Mahamudra, what is Mahamudra Chenpo, he was active in Tibet during Atisa time, and Muddapa Chenpo founded the Bodong monastery in 1049 AD while Atisa was still alive. And it was the Bodong monastery from which all the tradition of Kālacakra Tantra is moving in the initial phase in Tibet. Then in the year 1204, Sakya Sri Bhadra met Sakya Pandita. When Sakya Sri Bhadra along with his student Dansil, they had to flee from Vikramshila. So they went to Nepal. There he met Sakya Pandita. Sakya Pandita is credited with introducing Buddhism in Mongol court of Godan Khan. And Sakya Pandita mentioned about Sambala in his text, Sri Sambhad Prabhed. This showed that Sakya Pandita was conversant with Kālacakra Tantra. And Sakya Sri Bhadra has been a great Kālacakra scholar because lot of writings, his writings on Kālacakra that is available in Tenjur. Tenjur is a commentary written by other Indian masters and the collection of those commentaries. And Kanju is the word of Buddha, which the sutras that Buddha himself revealed. So Sakya Sri Bhadra's writings you can find it in Tenjur. So Sakya Sri Bhadra passes the Kālacakra teaching to Sakya Pandita, and Sakya Pandita is sending some of the scholars to central India also and Nepal to collate the Kālacakra Tantra texts. So those are quite detailed expeditions. So after death of Sakya Pandita, his nephew Paspa, he became the first monk king of Tibet under Kublai Khan. Paspa was elevated as the imperial preceptor of the Mongol Empire, an idea which Mongols picked up after defeating Tangut, Chichia kingdom, where a Kashmiri monk by the name Damo was state preceptor. Interestingly, Chichia, the kingdom of Tangut, whom the Tibetans called the Minyak, sent a scholar princess to Bodh Gaya to learn Kālacakra Tantra. And Sami Lochawa was one of them. He studied Kālacakra Tantra under Naropa. Just after death of Naropa, he came and he studied with Avyakar Gupta, the great mathematician and master from both from Vikramshila and Nalanda. But this Sami Lochawa, he became abbot of Mahabodhi temple, and he remained the only foreigner to be granted that status till now. And we are talking about the cosmopolitan nature of Bodh Gaya in early 13th century. So 4 tradition out of 17 Kālacakra tradition that reached Tibet is traced to Sami Lochawa. So I think many of the Kālacakra teachings that reached Mongol court also through this Chichia when the Kublai Khan captured and recently many writings are coming up how one Tangkut princess she worshipped Mahakal and Kublai Khan was killed. So a lot of in poetic verses and dramas are coming up in East Asia. So during Paspa time, Karma Pakshi, the second Karmapa, he came to Kublai Khan's court. Karma Pakshi was also a great scholar of Kālacakra Tantra, and he was the first to have composed something new in Tibetan language. All others were just translators. So he composed a small text on Kālacakra astronomy. So Karma Pakshi also started the first reincarnation lineage in Tibet, the Tilku system. The third Karmapa, Ranjin Dorji, the first official reincarnation in Tibetan history in 1288 AD. He was born in 1284 but officially recognized in 1288 AD. It is likely that second Karmapa picked up this idea of reincarnation and Tulku from his study of Kālacakra Tantra, where the lineage of 25 Kalki kings had been explored. When Kublai Khan died in 494 AD, we are talking about one of the greatest emperors of Eurasia. Then Queen Kokochin, wife of one of his nephew, and her son Ole Gitu, they sponsored a wood block painting of the Kālacakra Tantra in Uchian script under the guidance of Gupta master Orgenpa. And Orgenpa was also very close to second Karmapa. Orgenpa learned Kālacakra at the Bodong monastery founded by Mahamudra Chenpo. And I think it was Orgenpa's influence also on Mongol code as well as second Karmapa, and he carried the Kālacakra teachings there. But Kālacakra teachings, it is not only traveling to Tibet and Mongol code from Tibet, it is also traveling from India even till 15th century. So such was the respect for this country that when third Ming Emperor Jungal, he started construction of Purple Forbidden City in Beijing. He invited Kālacakra master Sariputra, the then abbot of Mahabodhi, to Beijing. This is not Sariputra who was linked with Sakyamuni Buddha. It is a 15th century master. And Sariputra arrived in China in 1413. He met the emperor in 1440. And it was Sariputra who presided the entrance ceremony of Forbidden City in 1420 AD. Later on, he became the state preceptor of not one, three Ming emperors, third, fourth, fifth. And he died on February 20, 1426. The fifth Dalai Lama, he writes in History of Tibet that Sariputra initiated first Thai Situpa in Kālacakra Tantra while being in Beijing. In fact, many of the temples which were constructed, one temple constructed in Beijing by Sariputra, the design was inspired from the Kālacakra, that five Dhyani Buddha ideas and Panchayatan structure. So that temple is still survives in Beijing. Then Van Ratnati, said to be the last Indian Pandit to Tibet, he went to Tibet 3 times in the late 15th century. He too was a great Kālacakra master. And before his death in 1468, he taught Kālacakra Tantra to Go Lochawa, the author of Blue Annals. Blue Annals mentioned that by the year 1481, because Go Lochawa, he died in 1482, so we are considering that by 1481, by his time, there were 21 translations of the Kālacakra Tantra done by Tibetans. And you can see the importance of Kālacakra in his commentary Vimal Prabha, that both three texts are part of Kanjur also and Tanjur also. If Kālacakra is word of Buddha, then it can't be part of Tanjur. And if Vimal Prabha is commentary by Pundit, it can't be part of Kanjur. But both the texts, so that show the importance among Vajrayana about this Kālacakra and its commentary. Now let us come to these are some pictures of Kublai Khan, Orgenpa, Sariputra. We need to do something on Sariputra, either celebrating his birthday or, because you know, when he died, 3 relic stupas were constructed and one is still there in Uttarakhand. So only 2 Indian masters had their stupa in Uttarakhand, and one of them was Sariputra, and we are talking about 15th century, how Magda remained active center for Kālacakra Tantra. Because the manuscript on which I have worked, so that was inscribed in Magda, Karachi in 1445 AD. And Van Ratna and all these people are going from here to China and other places. This is the introduction to the text. This text, I just mentioned that it is the king of Tantra. It has been composed in one of the toughest meters of Sanskrit poetry, Sardhara meter, comprising of 84 syllables in one stanza. And the whole text is composed in Sardhara meter. Even Kalidas could dare to write only few introductory verses in Sardhara meter in his Mahakavyas. But this whole text, 1047 verses, written in Sardhara meter. Moreover, the text is cryptic and the complex Bhut Sankhya numeral system, I just showed how it had to be read, has been applied for mathematical calculations. Also, the meaning is fluid and it is not inherent in the word. Just like Buddhist philosophy of impermanence, the meaning of the words keep changing in different contexts. So at some places, say I, Chakshu. Chakshu can mean I. Chakshu can also mean Lochan, the Dhyani Buddha, the female Dhyani Buddha Lochan. But Chakshu can also mean 2, number 2, because there are 2 Chakshu. Chakshu can mean Divya Chakshu also. So the meaning keep on changing. So it's just inverse of what Bhartari preached in his Astotvad. So then the text is compendium of all the major 5 disciplines of knowledge being taught in Nalanda during his age. These were Sabvidya, grammar and literature. Then Chikitsa Vidya, medicine. Hetu Vidya, logic. Silp Asthan Vidya or fine arts. And Adhyat Vidya or metaphysics and philosophy. There are more than 30 disciplines which have been described in the text, that too in poetic form with that cryptic language. This is what the text, why this text remain a challenge to decipher by modern scholarship. Moreover, I will just add, just like Islamic philosophy being discussed for the first time in any of the Indian textual tradition here, the term Hatha Yoga has also been used for the first time in this Kālacakra corpus only. Now let us see the structure of the text. There are 5 chapters, 1047 slokas, but 1030 slokas are the actual slokas, remaining 17 slokas are like epilogue. So the first chapter is Lok Dhatu Patal, 169 stanza, second Adhyad Patal, third Abhishek, fourth Sadhan Patal, and last is the Jnana Patal. So Lok Dhatu Patal, it deals with the outer Kālacakra or the physical universe, not termed it as the material world. Then Adhyad Patal deals with inner Kālacakra, but I have mentioned that this is dealing with the biological world. The Abhishek Patal describes other Kālacakra, upper. So many Kirtans say it is other Kālacakra, but I have put it as this constitutes everything from linguistics, semiotics, everything. So gestures, all kind of communication. So I have put it as symbolic universe. So you have, 3 range, the physical world, biological world, and symbolic world. So these 3 chapters are devoted to all these things. Then in Abhishek Patal there are 7 initiations to purify the first 3 range. Then 4th chapter is Sadhan Patal, where the 6-fold yoga has been described. And then the last is the Jnana Patal, that is the longest. And I expect to finish the last volume should come out by 2027. So now I will just sum up the basic philosophy and not for a general reader how to understand what it means to say. So the goal of this Tantra in its very first verse has been described as liberation of sentient beings during the Kali Yuga. But Kali is not only Kali Yuga, Kali is also Ka plus Or, so Kali plus Ali. So Ka is for consonants, Or is for vowels. So this Kali Yuga is also meant for uniting vowels and consonants. So it has multiple layers of meaning. So the first verse says, for the liberation of sentient beings during Kali Yuga, we need this Kālacakra Tantra has been propounded. Interestingly, this Tantra itself says when there will be end of the philosophical tradition, Siddhanta, and it will be ruled by Karan. Karan means algorithm, pattern recognition kind of thing, empirical based tables. So when their Siddhanta will be destroyed and it will be age of Karan, at that time it will be the age of Kālacakra to preach. And today, all over the world, you see how it's an algorithmic society and the Kālacakra text is revealing itself. So the Kālacakra Tantra further envisions a world where there is Shanti, that is peace, Pushti, nourishment, and then Tushti, satisfaction. After that, till Samaras, universal delight of harmony that arises. This Tantra, just I discussed, it postulates a threefold reality. Yatha bahye tatha dehe, yatha dehe tatha apre. Just like the outer world, the processes are similar in the inner world and processes are similar in the symbolic world. This describes the common pattern of process in the outer world, inner world and other world, and this similarity has been termed as Evam. The sign you are seeing there at the top edge. On left side is A, on right side is Vam. So that Evam means similarity. So this Evam becomes the monogram of Kālacakra philosophy because it talks about similarity. It is very interesting. And when you go to the last chapter, so again 160th verse that talks about, very interesting. Evam cha evam tatha evam trividam api bhave na apram kinchit asti. That means Evam and Evam, similarly Evam, this is threefold, there is nothing beyond this. So what is Evam, I will just describe, but here if you can see, any system, it can be divided into 2 halves, any system. And it says that, and even that the half, it has gender, right half is male, left half is female. And in each half, there is some kind of process, it's always change going on. So 5 mandalas flowing in the right half, 5 mandalas in the left half. And then there are phase changes from right to left, from left to right. We can observe from our breathing cycle. So it said that every system does same thing. It can be bifurcated and there are phase changes. Now, what happens when at the time of phase change, when it is in the Madhyama, it said the duration when it is at the Madhyama, that duration accumulates ring, that causes deficit, and that causes, dissipation, decay, whatsoever you say, death in due course of time. So this is the fundamental. So it is not only talking about human life. Even some you can see it into two halves, and 5 mandala flowing here, phase change coming here. So you have to see into systemic way. So now the Kālacakra Tantra deciphers this term in the wheel of time. In wheel of time, everything decays and disintegrates. It is like the second principle of entropy in thermodynamics. There is nothing in physical universe that cannot decay. Even photons decay. Similarly, in the biological world, there is death, and in the symbolic universe, there is data degeneration. Even languages don't get corrupted with time. Everything. So, how does degeneration occur? Time has two modes. Here, Kal is not only Kal means something which is flowing and degeneration is taking place. It said that two modes are computational, that is Kalanatmak, and then phase changing, which causes dissipation, that is Kalatmak. So time in its Kalatmak mode causes dissipation of the system. And I just discussed how in Madhyama it accumulates and it causes that. Now in all three worlds, physical, biological and symbolic, dissipation is taking place through similar process of breathing. So it's not that only we are breathing, even stars are breathing, even our alphabets are breathing. Therefore these have prana, and we use it in mantra and the tantric processes. So everything is breathing and alive, and if every system is breathing with phase interchanges, then all these are conscious. By postulating that the whole universe is conscious and alive, the Kālacakra Tantra builds a grand pan-psychic philosophy of the universe. On the other hand, all these processes are mechanical and have sequential arrangement. Even death is seen as a biomechanical process. And in the second volume which has been published, I have devoted a long section to how, when you can, decipher when death is coming, you can short circuit death itself. And those are the techniques. It's not by mantra. There are techniques by modulating your breath and these postures. So, even death is not because of karma. I said it's a biomechanical process. Here the wheel of Pratit Samutpat operates. This wheel of Pratit Samutpat, where there is this law of causation from cause and effect. There are 12 chains that seals the universe. The first link is in the chain is avidya, ignorance, and the 12th link is old age and death. This is in all three realms, physical, biological and symbolic. Even in the symbolic realm, you have same Pratit Samutpat, creating this mechanical process. So, in the biological world, prana wind carries our life energy. Similarly, in physical universe, everything is just floating, all the stars, galaxy. So this is the pravaha wind, which makes a celestial object to constantly drift. And in the symbolic world, it is prabhav wind that carries sentiments and rasa, bhav. The prana wind has 10 mandala, 5 each in the right and 5 on the left, which pertain to elemental nature of that earth, water, fire, wind and space. So similarly, there are 10 mandalas in the flow of pravaha, or celestial flow. Then there are 10 mandalas in flow of bhav also. And 10 mandalas are present in the flow of time through yugas. That like Kriti, these have 4 mandalas. Treta Yuga had 3 mandalas. Then Dwapar Yuga had 2 mandalas, and Kali Yuga had only 1 mandala. So there also, there is this flow of mandalas in the Mahayuga. Now, the Tantra says, these 10 mandalas are also present in the, in a women's womb. So all these follow the principle of causality within their own realm. But this principle of causality ingrained in Pratit Samutpat, which leads to old age and death, that can be counterbalanced, short-circuited by the principle of Evam. So on one hand you have Pratit Samutpat, on another hand you have Evam. So this is Evam is non-causal. So you have three theorems. I put all these are following that mechanical process of Pratissamutpad causation. But Evam is causal, no cause and effect. This, similarly this. Okay, but there is no cause and effect kind of thing. So this Evam, and therefore Evam becomes, because Evam bypasses causality principle. Therefore it will pass that cycle from avidya to jara maran. This Evam principle operates through tunneling. You can say just like non-local effect, quantum tunneling. It's like, tunneling from one realm to another. So that if one attains mastery of ritual in a mandala, then he can also master his body, and thereafter he can master the outer world. So this is by Evam. This is not by, principle of causality and Pratissamutpad. So then reversal of flow of time is possible through this Evam principle. When one masters the hydraulic reversal of the falling bodhicitta, he also learns the reversal of aging. Processes in different spheres work like, quantum non-local effect, thereby short-circuiting the ubiquitous Pratissamutpad. This Tantra further attempt to work out universal algorithm of dissipation in flow of time for all three layers of reality. It is common process. What is there, similar is there, similar is there. The same, process of decay is in death also, is in, data degeneration also. And that process is also enumerated. It is mathematical. So, once you understand, like, the deity Kālacakra, its number is 1125. Now 1125 are, I need to explain it later because it will go in a fight. So that 1125 number is there also, in the linguistics also, in inner world also, and in outer world also. Because if you see the difference between motion of sun and moon, it is 11 and a quarter day in a year. Because solar year is 365 and a quarter, and lunar year is 354. So in 100 years, that difference becomes 1125. That is a deficit. Similarly with our breath, phase change in one day, how much, deficit you occurs here in the Madhyama. So in 100 years, that becomes 1125. And similarly, when you go to the symbolic world, there are 10, 80, phonemes, consonants, the mixing of consonants, and 45 vowels. That also become 1125. So here it's not only that it's algorithmic, it's also mathematical, and that is common in all three realms. So now they followed some kind of, what we say vaccination method. They say if the Madhyama, it causes dissipation. If we process it, just like if we process poison in a small amount, that becomes medicine. So similarly, if we process the Madhyama of any system, and we pierce with that Madhyama the system system is transmute, and it will develop the immunity against flow of time. So this is just like you put some microbes as a, during vaccination, and then that microbe develops immunity against same microbe. So this model of transmuting the system, this they have taught through, processing your Madhyama Nadi through Hatha Yoga and Dhyana processes. So those are in the 4th chapter. Now, an individual can reverse aging, and he can become 16 years young beyond graying of his hair and wrinkling process. So they say it is Pali Pali Gata, beyond, the graying and this wrinkling. So the outer world, that too can be transformed into Sambhala, and Lok Dhatu can be transformed into Buddha Kshetra. The symbolic universe is then pervaded by primordial indestructible Nad, beyond vowels and consonants, represented as Hum. This is a part of unastrav, pure, unconditioned one, the asanskrit state of being, just like a sky which does not obstruct movement and nothing clings to them. Transmutation creates such a state that it can no longer be defiled. It's like steel which cannot be rusted again. Such a philosophy, based on search for universal algorithm, will be apt for a world when machines will pass Turing test, and finally artificial general intelligence will arrive when machines can be self-aware and conscious like humans. A self-aware machine would also seek transcendence from routine algorithmic chain. Kālacakra Tantra can provide a proto-template for computational transcendence. because its transcendental philosophy is based on numbers and mathematics. So this will be acceptable to conscious machines and humans integrated with AI-based bionics. I am showing some of the, this is the Kālacakra monogram Evam, I won't go into deep details, and showing some of the mandalas of the Kālacakra Tantra. You can see there is 643 deity Kālacakra mandala. This is from Tibet, the Jamthang golden Kālacakra mandala, constructed only during the 21st century. So the present mandala, they have 720 deities. Two central deities are in non-dual union. But then another large mandala of 1620 deities is mentioned in the Tantra, and they mentioned, so Kha Kar Nipati, this is the number given. So Kha is a space, number 0, Kar is hands, number 2, Nipati king stands for number 16, because they are 16 guna. So now you have to read it in reverse, that becomes 1620. So the mandala, the larger mandala of 1620 has been mentioned in the Tantra, but we have not found, detail about that anywhere else, but it's there in the Tantra. So we don't know how to do, 900 more deities also to create that huge 1620 deity mantra. So these deities, if you see, these are embodiment of computational time, not dissipative. Because in first case, if you see 720 deities, where from it is coming? So when sun courses through the called zodiacs, in each zodiac it spends 60 nadis, that becomes called 720 nadis. So those 720 nadis have been embodied as 720 deities of the mandala. Now moon courses through 27 nakshatra, in each nakshatra it spends 60 lunar nadis. Now multiply 27 into 60, it becomes 1620. So those 1620 nadis have been embodied as the deity. It's very interesting that every layer, no, it's just connected. So now, summing up, the beauty of this Tantra, this you see the beautiful, you see the mandala of this Tantra, and just as we discussed, if you if you practice the mandala sadhana and you control the symbolic world, you can control your body also by that Evam paradigm. Now the beauty of this some meditation methods, not going into detail, is interesting. You see, if you see the moon on full moon day, you will find, you can see the hung, like hanging down in the moon, that the moon hair, what people say, but it looks like hung. So it said, from moon, that bindu drop, it comes here at crown, and the whole process, how it moves across body in first fortnight and the another fortnight through all the joints that I have just shown it, it is going in my fourth volume. So it's interesting how outer world gets linked with inner world. Or it said, during eclipse or equinoxes, your prana starts flowing in the madhyama, middle channel automatically. So outer world is connected with inner world. Again, same Evam paradigm. Now, about this last stage, about what from this Tantra, practicing this Tantra, what can be attained? One can attain immortality, indestructible body of light, that to the rainbow. We all know about Guru Padma Sambhav's rainbow body, that Jalu's thing in Tibetan Buddhism. So the beauty of this Tantra is that it does not reject empirical knowledge and technology. There is a long section on machines in the first chapter. Further this Tantra talk about integrating Jnana and Vijnana. Then astronomy, which it performs its current type of astronomy where empirical observations are more important. Then this philosophy of Kālacakra Tantra stands shoulder to center shoulder with contemporary view of empirical observation and pattern recognition. Further, it claims to know only partial truth. It says its monogram is Evam. Evam means adding also. This and this and this. So it said we don't know truth. So I don't have monopoly of truth. So this kind of word philosophy. So it believes in syncretism, and that thing makes it this Tantra as paragon of globalization. Today mankind has set higher goal of prolonging life and working to understand the process of death at a molecular level. In fact, this Kālacakra system also envisioned to attain that body of anti-aging process and yogic process for transmuting the body into a rainbow body in this very lifetime. This process, as well as the medicinal preparations described within the text, should be understood and experimented by the scientific community. That will come in my fifth volume, all the preparations, alchemical preparations and other the formularies. So unlike several religious philosophies which celebrate penury over prosperity, the Kālacakra system promotes idea of a prosperous world, Sambala. As per the text, first thing required is, we just discussed Pusti and then the Tusti. So without prosperity and contentment, no peace, that is Shanti, can be achieved. Sambala of Kālacakra Tantra is the imaginary pure land, which is abode of perpetual peace. Perpetual peace is, Sambho means peace also. So from that the Sambala word has come. Sambala is not some, utopian word. So it's basically a peaceful, prosperous word. So it can be a pure terrestrial land having prosperity, enlightened citizenship and satisfied inheritance. This is the utopia which political philosophers dream to achieve, and this is the dream of theologians from different religions. In a way, Kālacakra philosophy is rooted in ancient past, but is also very contemporary and provides forward-looking worldview. The ultimate experience in Kālacakra practice is realizing rainbow body. What is a rainbow? It is a colorful appearance of empty form, sunyat bin, in a sky. A sky does not hold or drive it, it does not stick to a sky, it also self-arises. So basically this is the exteriorization of Mahamudra. So the chromodynamics that this Tantra postulates, it pervades social spectrum too. It celebrates the mixing of castes, like mixing of alphabets. The future Kalki support to lead 96 races of mankind against the barbaric tendency. Kalki is none other than embodiment of social coherence. Kalka means paste, cement, and Kalki is someone who rebuilds social harmony. There is a space in this philosophy called the downtrodden and the marginalized. In the social system of caste, Antyat, that is outcast, untouchable, have the Vishwan rainbow color in this Tantra. The initiation process starts with goddess Tara, who represents Sushruti caste. She starts empowerment process with water by emphasizing on attaining rainbow color. This Tantra celebrates diversity in its very essence. For higher spiritual practice, the inner fire is visualized radiating rays with rainbow color. I have just shown it here. If you see, that has been prepared by Mita here. For the practice of pranayam, now 10 mandas of prana is to be united together in a mustard-sized ball having rainbow color, such of this one pin. But Meta AI failed to do that, so I prepared that on my own. So, if you see, everywhere is rainbow. And when the practice is accomplished, it is said that body will start emanating rays having rainbow color. So this one image is from Lhasa, this secret temple of Dalai Lama. If you see again, this is rainbow going up. And I just got it prepared from Meta AI. So what if a conscious robot starts practicing for the rainbow body? So this will be how it will appear. So this Tantra is an ocean of non-Western thinking. In Western epistemic framework of order of things, entities which come first, that disappear first. But here, that order is not like that. So here, the entity, which appear first, they will disappear last. Just like the roots of the plant appear first and fruit appears last. And in human body, if you see, the breath appears first, then hairs, then teeth, and then our sexual maturity. The disappearance is in the reverse order. So, if you see, if you apply this geopolitically on rise and decline of civilization, one finds how the ancient civilizations of India and China grew first. Then the US and liberal democracy, followed by Soviet Union and communism. And we know how Soviet Union collapsed and communism collapsed first. Now its liberal democracies are on the retreat worldwide. From Kālacakran perspective, India and China would last the longest. I have been working on 5-volume translation and commentary. This is new verse-by-verse commentary from India being composed after 1,000 years. I have invested 10 beautiful years in this monumental task. I am happy to explore this Tantra afresh and offer it to the Gen next who have to carry the burden of building a global Sambhala. Earth is the only home that we humans inhabit at present. We don't know about Mars. To make it more homely, what better than creating satisfied individuals working for shared co-prosperity of the mankind.
तो कह रहे कि शून्य ही है जहाँ से हर चीज ओरिजिनेट भी होती है.
यस, वो भी है.
ठीक है.
अब देखिए, अब जैसे लिंग्विस्टिक्स में भी मध्यमा है. वो कौन है? सेमी वॉवेल्स. वॉवेल कॉन्सोनेंट उसका भी मध्यमा है. तो इसे ये तंत्र जब डेवल करता है तो सेमी वॉवेल से ही सारे मंत्र बनाए जाते हैं. हॉयर और लॉ को यूज किया जाता है. ठीक है. तो उसी तरह अगर फिजिकल वर्ल्ड में देखें तो किसी सिस्टम का जो सेंट्रल पॉइंट है दैट इज मध्यमा. तो वहाँ पे ना दाएं की चीज़ है ना बाएं की है. तो इसे वहाँ पे जो शून्यात जो कहिए ना उसकी अवस्था होती है. उसमें किसी का गुण नहीं होता. उसका अपना स्वभाव शून्य हो. थैंक यू वेरी मच फॉर जॉयफुल लिसनिंग एंड दिस इज द क्रक्स ऑफ द योगा ऑफ कालचक्रा. You have all these 5 mandalas from right, 5 mandalas from left coming together. This is Namaste, and uniting all the 10 mandalas. Thank you very much.